I am absolutely thrilled that Lynn Courtney has agreed to do this, and we've really been looking forward to this.
Video on or not? It's not.
Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Right. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn, and then I'm going to ask everybody else to mute themselves. How's that?
Great. And I will say from the start that we're recording the meeting, and I'm also going to share my slides after with not only you all, but I'll just send it out on the listserv. I'm hoping we can get more people involved with what is sort of the end goal of this presentation, which is to join in an eco-challenge as a community. And I also want to ask you, in the interest of getting through everything, to hold your questions until the end of my presentation. We'll stop and take some time for questions and then move on to the eco-challenge. And so I also want to warn you that I have an embedded video early in my presentation that I was having trouble getting out of. So I may have to stop it and share it again when I get to that point. So don't be alarmed. So now I'm going to share. And let's start here. Okay, so this for some reason has jumped from my opening screen, which is this. And we were just talking about how do you not fall into despair. And I think that some of the things I'm going to talk about are one way to avoid that or to mitigate that. So I am going to be drawing heavily on the work of Project Drawdown. And so I want you to know something about it first. And I think the best way to do that is to play a part of a video of Paul Hawken. Paul Hawken is a longtime environmentalist, activist, and writer, and he is the founder of Project Drawdown. He has since, I will say, moved on, but left it in very, very capable hands. But he will tell you something about it, I think, better than I can. So let's go to that.
If you Google the top 10 solutions to climate change, top 20, 30, 40, 50, you name a number, but the top ones, what you get are proverbs. It's kind of like be kind to your mother, you know, eat smart, consume less, be efficient, move closer to work, use power strips at home. I mean, things that are definitely sensible, make total sense, but also give you a sense that we're screwed. Because you know the enormity of the problem, the challenge that exists, it makes you feel sort of hopeless, actually. Most of the solutions in the world that are being proffered to people are about people's beliefs, whether they're from experts or they're from activists or they're from you know, institutes or NGOs. It's just our beliefs about what we need to do. And like any good proverb, they're true, but they don't actually come together in a way that gives us a sense that cumulatively together and with those solutions, we can actually reverse global warming. And the idea that we should aim for mitigation or reduction or stabilization is just crazy, because ppm right now of carbon dioxide parts per million is 402. Humans have never existed when it was over 300. So we're in terra nova. We're in a place right now that no human being of any sort of type, and certainly civilizational or not, has ever existed. So the science about what's going to happen, how fast it's going to happen, is actually speculative. It's good science, but it's speculative. And the idea that we should adapt, mitigate, reduce at this point at 402 is, to me, absurd. If you're going the wrong way, you have to stop. You just can't slow down and say, now we're not going the wrong way. You still are going the wrong way. And that's why I say right now the proposals around addressing global warming are like Thelma and Louise in slow motion. We're just going right over the cliff, but we want to go slower. And that is not an inspirational goal for humankind. The only goal that makes sense for humanity is to reverse global warming. It's to stop, turn around, and go the other way. And I don't believe that you can achieve something if you don't name what it is you want to achieve. And naming the goal of reversal actually opens up possibility. There's this idea that somehow if we make our goals too big, that it's too hard. It's the other way around. The bigger you make your goal, the more spaciousness there is in your mind, and creativity, imagination soars within a big goal. It doesn't get very far when the goal is really tiny and minuscule. Drawdown is the point in time when greenhouse gases peak and begin to go down on a year-to-year basis. At least that's what it means in respect to climate. You can't achieve drawdown unless you bring carbon back home, because we're way past the point in the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that would lead to a stabilized planet or stabilized weather systems. That's gone. So drawdown depends on bringing carbon back home. There's only one way we know how to do it, and it happens every year, and that is through photosynthesis. And if you look at NASA maps of carbon dioxide emissions span of a year, what you see is that every year, actually, we do draw down 6 to 7 ppm. So it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. The problem is it doesn't go down to where it was before, and so there is a slow incremental increase of CO2 and greenhouse gases. So it's really about that equilibration, getting to that point where we bring back every year, over the course of a year, the same amount that we're emitting, and then bring back a little more, and that point's drawdown. And that is a very doable thing. And the way we face it, the way we looked at it, is as if it's almost an impossible task, and it's the other way around. The solutions surround us and around us all the time. The IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is the most magnificent and greatest scientific endeavor in the history of humankind. There is no second or third place. Given that, you would think that we would know what to do cold. But actually the IPCC doesn't really work on solutions. They do have a third working group that is about solutions, and the one that came out 2 years ago was 2,017 pages long, and I don't think anybody I know read it, and it didn't become accessible in a way to people that they knew what to do as individuals, as communities, neighborhoods, cities, towns. It didn't make sense at all. It was science. So when we started Project Drawdown, we were working into a vacuum. What we did is map, measure, and model extant, existing, practical, hands-on, W.W. Granger, everybody can get them solutions or do them, and see what would happen if they continued to scale in a rigorous but reasonable way over 30 years, and whether or not we could achieve drawdown, which is that first point in time when greenhouse gases decline. And we just began a process of mapping and measuring and modeling them. But first we had to cull them and collate them and look at them all. We looked at hundreds of solutions and started to, in a sense, measure their impact. Either they have an impact in terms of reducing the amount of carbon, CO2, or greenhouse gases that are going up, or they actually bring carbon dioxide back home. They sequester carbon. And we obviously were interested in both. And in that process, we only used peer-reviewed literature to measure the carbon impact. We didn't use anecdotes or stories or narratives. And on the economic side, the same thing. We modeled both the impact and the cost and the savings. It's a very complex model because every solution impacts every other solution in some way. It's one system, it's one Earth. And when the solutions came out, we were shocked. With the top solutions, we were like, no, you're kidding. And
So I'm going to stop, and because it wasn't working well before, I'm going to stop sharing and share it again, starting with the next slide. So hang on, bear with me. Okay. Right. Okay, so Let me share again. And continue. So what I like about Project Drawdown is the rigorousness of the science. They have many scientists, many researchers around the world at various universities working with them. I stopped at the point I did because the solutions have actually been a bit updated. They're substantially the same, but they're constantly studying it. So they have been updated somewhat, and we'll continue from there. What we're seeing now are the words of Margaret Mead about collective individual action. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we will start from there. Well, there we go. And as we begin to explore these Project Drawdown solutions, I just want to say a few things about them. If you're not seeing the whole slide on your screen for some reason, you might want to collapse the gallery view on the side there. So Project Drawdown lists 82 existing solutions, plus a few more that are currently in development across a range of areas. The solutions that I'm going to show you are in rank order, with one being the solution with the greatest potential of reducing greenhouse gases. They used to actually number them. They don't do them that way on their website anymore, but I numbered them so you'll get a sense of the degree to which your individual actions on each one of these will be effective. And I also want to say that they when they talk about the reduction of gigatons of CO2, they are really talking about CO2 equivalents, because CO2 is not the only greenhouse gas, and they have formulas by which they can look at the different greenhouse gases involved in any particular solution and convert it into equivalents of CO2. And it's in gigatons of CO2. And I'm just showing you there, you sort of how to picture that in your mind. It's still a little hard. But if you picture an Olympic swimming pool and think about its volume, and then you multiply that by 400,000, you get 1 billion metric tons of water, and that's 1 gigaton. And if you want to think about from 2016, the year 2016, multiply that number, that 400,000, by 36, and you can do the math. I haven't done it, but you'll get the number of gigatons of CO2 that we put into the atmosphere in that year, 2016. So let's start looking at some of the solutions. Well, before we do that, I do want to say that it is more than CO2, as I just mentioned. And there are several, I'm sorry, I need to do that. There are several other greenhouse gases that we need to be very concerned about. One of them are fluorinated gases. These are primarily fluorohydrocarbons that are used in refrigerants. So these are the gases that cool your refrigerator, your freezer, your air conditioning. And I'm not going to talk about that much tonight, because that changes in that for that solution have to come from changes in regulations, changes in policy. And so because I'm focusing on what individuals can do, I'm not going to address that much, but it is very serious, as you can see, because these gases are 1,000 to 9,000 times as potent as CO2 in warming the atmosphere. So they represent only 2%, but they are quite bad. They are ozone friendly, but they're quite bad in terms of global warming. Nitrous oxide is another one. It's 300 times as potent as CO2 in warming the atmosphere. And it comes primarily from probably a number of sources, but one of the big ones is chemical fertilizers, which get atomized and go up into the atmosphere, and then methane, which is about 85 times as potent as CO2 in warming the atmosphere, which seems like a lot less than 9,000, but is still pretty bad. And as you can see, about 3/4 of greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, and then you can see the proportions of those others. So now we'll move on to some solutions, and I'll be coming back to this a bit later. So the first solution, the number one thing that we can do to reduce CO2 equivalents is to reduce food waste. And I was kind of shocked by these figures when I saw them. 1/3 of the food grown and prepared anywhere in the world never feeds a person. It never makes it to anyone's plate. It is thrown out before it ever gets there. At the same time, 8 million people, which is about 1/8 of the world's population, live with hunger every day. And 30% of the wasted food is thrown away by consumers, and that's referred to as willful waste. So we choose to throw that food away. And as you might suspect, that's more prevalent in Western wealthier countries, whereas in less wealthy, more developing countries, it tends to be more accidental food waste, that there just aren't the personnel, the equipment, the refrigerated trucks, and so forth to get all the food to the people who need it. So what can you do to reduce food waste? Well, you can buy those cosmetically inferior pieces of produce if you can find them, because we don't buy them at the supermarket, and therefore the supermarket rejects them before they ever get there, and they often just get thrown away. Or you can, you can look for services that will collect those sort of cosmetically inferior pieces, fruits and vegetables, and you can buy them from one of those services. You can track and reduce your own food waste. Coming from my career as an evaluator, I know that tracking something, looking at it, is one way to help you do it. You can support organizations like the one you see here, Boston area gleaners, that reclaim edible food from fields and then get it to people who need it. I know our own Lori Nearing has done a lot of work with them, and they are now, their headquarters are now in South Acton, where Stonefield Farm used to be. And you can volunteer there packing food, or in other places, or you can donate money to them or other similar organizations. Use your leftovers. So if you have a little bit left on your plate and you think, this isn't much, I'll just throw it away, save it, eat it for lunch the next day. My dad, for my entire life, would periodically comb through the refrigerator and get all the leftovers and make soup out of them. And it was always good, and it used that food. So use those leftovers. And then if you can, compost. So those are just some ideas for this particular solution. Moving on to solution number 2, that is the second from the top, is health and education, by which Drawdown project means family planning and the education of girls around the world. These used to be solutions 5 and 6, but they realized that they were so intertwined that it made more sense to put them together, which brought them up to number 2 in terms of the amount of CO2 reduction that could happen. With regard to family planning, this is not about governments telling you can't have children. There are over 2 million low-income women in communities across the world who want but can't get access to contraception, either because it's not available or because they're not allowed to. So working to empower those women to have control over their own reproductive health would be huge. 45 of US pregnancies are unintended. So working at home, as we will probably need to do pretty strongly for the same thing, is important. And it might surprise you that Iran and Bangladesh are success stories in this regard. Iran, through a process of public education that religious people were involved in, managed to decrease their birth rate by, I think it was about 1/3. I don't have the figures right in front of me. Bangladesh, through sending healthcare workers out door to door, first from one hospital, and then it was a practice that spread across the country. I believe reduced its birth rate by about 50%. I may have those figures not exactly right, but it was quite an amazing thing that happened in both those countries, and I guess is still happening. And we know from lots of studies that educated girls grow up with greater upward mobility, they have smaller, better fed families, and they bring their communities greater resilience in the face of natural disasters. So in addition to reducing CO2, there are many other good outcomes from this. And so what can you do to promote this? Well, this is one of those cases where it's not so much taking direct action yourself, but donating to organizations that fund each of these areas. I do include these, whereas I don't necessarily include grassroots lobbying around many of these solutions because, and by that I mean contacting your local, state, federal elected representatives, elected officials, because you're not having a direct effect doing that. You're having an indirect effect, you hope. That's still critically important to do, that grassroots lobbying. It's critically important, and we should all be doing it about all these issues as much as we can. It's just not the focus of what I'm presenting tonight. But donating does have a pretty direct effect, as long as you research your organizations carefully. So now on to solution number 3. Not quite. I just wanted to read this quote by Malala Yousafzai, who you may remember survived a Taliban attack to go on to become the youngest winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, who says, "One child, one teacher, one group, and one pen can change the world." And she currently is the director of and board president of an organization called Malala's Fund, which does exactly what I was suggesting, supporting education for girls around the world. So solution 3 is a plant-rich diet. And raising livestock accounts for at least 18% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And I have seen estimates as high as 50% when you include, all of the ways that it puts CO2 and other gases in the air. It also has a steep cost in human health and healthcare costs. And something that Drawdown doesn't mention, but that I want to mention, is the whole issue of climate justice. I will bet that very few, if any of us, have lived next to an animal feedlot or a meat processing plant, because those get located in low-income communities, which are also often communities of color. And then they disproportionately suffer from the pollution that comes out of that. Land use is also an issue. So if you look at that, graphic on the right, on a standard American diet, which includes a lot of meat and animal products, it takes 2 football fields worth of land to feed one person. On a plant-based diet, those same 2 football fields worth of land can feed 14 people per year. And if everyone in the world ate a plant-based diet, 5 billion football fields worth of land could be reforested. And we know what forests do. They sequester carbon. So this is also a really important solution. So what can you do to move the world toward a plant-rich diet? Well, you can commit to eat an increasing number of meals each week that don't contain meat or perhaps don't contain any animal products at all. You can support restaurants that offer plant-based options. And you can also support organizations such as the one you see on the right that work toward this goal. And that graphic is just another way of showing the hugely disproportionate land use that raising livestock actually takes. We just celebrated the life of Thich Nhat Hanh in our church service this past Sunday. And this quote is from a famous letter that he wrote called the Blue Cliff Letter, in which, among other things, he told people who were coming to his retreat center at Plum Village in France, that for the upcoming retreat and from then on, they would be serving only vegetarian food, by which he actually meant entirely plant-based food. And he said, may we keep our compassion alive by eating in such a way that reduces the suffering of living beings, stops contributing to climate change, and heals and preserves our precious planet. So he was a very strong climate activist in his time. Solution number 9 is improved clean cook stoves. And this is not about your buying the best gas range or the most efficient one. It's about the 3 billion people around the world who cook either over open fires or over traditional, very rudimentary stoves. And so they use wood and charcoal and animal dung and so forth in these stoves that creates a huge amount of pollution, and it contributes to about 2 to 5% of annual greenhouse gas emissions. And it results, because of the pollution, in 4.3 million premature deaths. So what can you do about that? This is another case where making a donation, if you can, is the way to work toward this. The Clean Cooking Alliance is one organization. You can find many others if you research it. Solution number 10, distributed photovoltaics. So this is rooftop solar. And I know some of us who've been working on getting nuclear energy more prominently into the mix of energy solutions have some concern about large-scale solar installations and the resources they use and the pollution they cause. But certainly rooftop solar in particular has a place in our energy solutions, can reduce household use of fossil fuels. And this is the picture you're seeing here, it can provide electricity to regions of the world where other sources of electricity are not available. So the woman on the right is a member of the Uru people on Lake Titicaca. There are a number of floating islands made of reeds on Lake Titicaca, high in the Andes, 12,000 feet in altitude near the sun. And actually the Uru people know themselves as the sons of the sun. So this is a really perfect match. And she's excited because she's going to have electricity in her home for the first time ever. So what can you do to promote distributed solar voltaics? Well, you can explore a rooftop solar for your own home. And what you're seeing here is actually my son's garage out in St. Paul, Minnesota. And, there's a solar panel up there. It's connected in with his electrical system. And I think it might actually be powering the electric vehicle that's in his garage. You can also explore a solar water heater for your home. And again, you can donate to organizations that fund rooftop solar for remote communities. Solution 16 is insulation. And I know this, one thing I'm gradually working on in my own home is replacing windows that are very leaky. Because the problem, if your house isn't properly insulated, is heat infiltration, because hot air will move in the direction of colder air. So hot air moving outside in the winter and inside in the summer accounts for up to 16% of home energy use. And Drawdown notes that their modeling shows that the gigatons saved over 30 years assumes 54% of existing buildings upgrade their insulation. So what can you do? Well, the obvious answer is to upgrade the insulation in your own home. And you want to ensure that it's continuous, that it's around the floors, the ceilings, and the walls, that all the gaps are sealed around beams and that kind of thing, and certainly around windows, and that the R value, which is the resistance to heat loss, is high. These are two solutions together, 26 and 33. Electric vehicles and then hybrid cars, particularly plug-in hybrid cars, can save a great deal together in CO2 emissions. And I don't have a separate slide about what you can do because it's kind of obvious. If you are considering buying a new car, consider one of these types of vehicles if you can. LED lighting. Solution number 18. It surprised me how high it is on the list. So I never remember what LED means, what it stands for. So I've included that for you. It's light emitting diodes, and they convert most of their energy into light and not heat, which is why they're such a good solution. And in remote areas without electricity, they can be powered by small solar cells. They use 90% less energy than incandescence and 50% less than compact fluorescence. And so, of course, the obvious action you can take is first to learn more about the options that are available, and then replace bulbs in your own home when you can with LEDs. And finally, solution 36 is smart thermostats. Again, a fairly easy solution to implement. Residential thermostats control about 9% of U.S. energy use, and they can produce energy savings of up to 12% for heating, 15% for cooling. And they do it by learning from and adjusting to your behavior, using sensors to know when you're in a room and when you're not, when you're home, when you're not. And you can also control them remotely. So what you can do is to purchase one of these for your home if you don't already have one. And also when you're home, keep temperatures a little cooler than you might want to in the winter, and a little hotter than you might want to in the summer, to get optimal energy savings, and adjust the thermostat remotely as you need to. So I want to end before we do some Q&A with another quote from Malala Yousafzai, because it is again about the power of individual action to change the world. She says, "You will never know who stands with you unless you stand up first." I'm noticing also, I want to just go back to when I was talking about food waste and plant-rich diet, something I meant to say about methane, which is that both those things produce methane. And you'll recall that methane is 84 times as potent at warming the climate as CO2. That's the bad news about it. The good news is that it reacts very quickly, and I don't pretend to understand the chemistry. If someone else does, they can jump in and explain when we start the Q&A. But that means any action you take and that we take collectively will have a much more immediate effect on methane than it will on CO2, because for whatever reasons that, again, I don't fully understand, it takes longer for CO2 to come down even after all these various solutions are implemented. So I want to stop there and, spend maybe 10 minutes on questions that you might have. I'm going to stop the sharing, and then I want to go into spending a little bit of time inviting you into an eco challenge. Yes, Susan.
Lynn, thank you. It's really a great presentation, very accessible. Thank you. And
You're welcome.
yeah, eat less meat. Methane, wow. You didn't talk about transportation.
I didn't talk about transportation. So I wanted to say that actually, Susan, that there are many more individual things that people could do that I left out, and that you can encounter in the Eco Challenge. So things like things like buying a carbon offset if you have to fly, or booking a nonstop flight if you have to fly, using public transportation, biking, and so forth. They're all important things, and they are part of Project Drawdown solutions. So thank you.
How about carpooling to church, or biking or walking to church?
Yep, carpooling, walking, those are all things that they mentioned. I had to select what would fit into this hour, so I tried to pick some of the most impactful ones.
I think you did a great job selecting. And the school in Ghana that we support, it educates the girls.
Yeah.
It's so critical.
Great. Other questions, comments?
I have a question, because food waste is something that that drives me crazy. And I think one of the issues is that very often you can't buy the amount of food that you want at the grocery store. You have to buy these large packages of things. And I was just wondering if anybody knows about any, way to address that. I mean, I'm thinking that, when the farm stands are open and you can, put your own number of green beans in the in your container, that's one thing. But, it's just so frustrating to not be able to buy appropriate sizes of things.
Yeah. Well, one thing you can do is look for places that have bulk, that sell in bulk. And actually, this weekend, we walked by Deborah's Natural Gourmet in West Concord, which has bought the old 5 and Dime and is expanding. And we looked in and we saw a huge wall about, 15 or 20 feet long of bulk containers. So that's one thing to do that comes to me. I'm sure there are others. But yeah, that's a good point. Other thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes, Lori.
Sorry, I came in late. I was at a different meeting and just caught.
No worries.
Not your whole thing. I'll go back and look at it. I've been curious about comparing electric vehicles to hybrid vehicles, and if we look at where the energy comes from when we plug in the vehicle, does it still save a lot? Comparing my hybrid gets really good gas mileage, my Prius, and then looking at the whole cradle to grave thing, I think that's important too. We look at the battery takes a lot of energy to make, and I was just wondering if you could comment if you know.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but I think you raised a good point. I will actually share an anecdote rather than any definitive answer, but my son recently was able to buy a Tesla, and he drove. He took a trip last year down to Virginia from St. Paul, Minnesota, and he mapped out ahead of time where he was going to stop to charge based on the proportion of renewable energy produced in that particular state. And he tried to avoid the states where it was lower. So, so it is an important thing, that is a factor. And, as Paul Hawkins said, so many of these things interact in such complex ways. But I don't have a definitive answer to that that I know about. Maybe someone else does, knows more than I do about that.
Well, I can comment on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, widely in our society, a fully electric vehicle is a problem, because where did the electricity come from? And most of it comes from fossil fuels. And even if a lot of renewables are supplying that electricity, the renewables are backed up by natural gas. So it tends not to be what we think it is. And the hybrids have a lot of merit in the way that they're in their efficiency.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think a lot of it has to do with how we accept things. Like, for example, when Lara was being called to our church, I suggested we have a potluck to welcome her that was vegan. There was a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to normalize things like that. Let's have, a more plant-based potluck, or let's normalize biking to church. Luckily, we're not at church where we have to show up looking like everything. So that's good for us. So, come on your bike, come sweaty, carpool with somebody, and they're hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get a plug-in out there. We can all fight over it.
Yeah.
It doubles the mileage when we carpool.
Yeah. So in a little bit, I'm going to move on to Drawdown's Eco Challenge. But I'm already thinking that maybe in the fall we want to because you can do this through this organization, ecochallenge.org. We might want to devise our own dedicated community, to the FCU community. Things we can do as a community as opposed to as individuals. We might want to do one of those. So that's something to think about for the future.
Just one thing I wanted to mention, I guess. The other thing I think about sometimes is the weird way that we use our lawn space, those of us who have lawns, with either grass or just plants that aren't really native to here. And, you can use that space so much better. And that's something I wonder if, for instance, at church, could we do more with the land that we have, out back? I know we have all that poison ivy, but, is there something we can do to use that land better as well?
Yeah, that's a great thought. Could we have a vegetable garden,
Mhm.
So I'm starting to do some organizing along those lines, specifically in the town of Littleton. I'm still at the very, very beginning stages, but if anyone's interested in that angle, particularly focusing on lawns and individuals, what you do, your direct connection with the plant world and the insect world, the pollinator world, and all of that. It does have a climate difference. There is a real climate impact.
Yeah.
Cara Dwayne, I think Savastanis, like 10 or 15 years ago, he went on a campaign to educate people in the lake regions, the lake neighborhoods, to change their form of, what do you call it? Fertilizing. Yeah. But I think Tom Savastanis, he was the head of the water department in Littleton. He talked very, very fast. But I think Tom planted some tomato plants outside of, at the top of the driveway. I think we did have some tomatoes. We could plant some more vegetables. That's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah, he did. And I was lucky because he didn't like tomatoes, so I got to eat them. But I would love to see us use the grass area that's in front of the building even for things, because that's kind of, in addition to that being more land and it getting sunlight, kind of sends a message too. It's right there,
Yeah.
So we need to find out what's native. I don't know. Where's Laura? Laura Semple, what's native?
Yeah, well, actually, I know that Acton Indivisible is starting a group to do exactly that, to go into people's homes and do native plantings. And also the Middlesex Conservation Commission, they usually sell plants and are very focused on natives too. So that's and there's also an Facebook group, which is New England Natives, I think. So I'm on that too. So yeah, I mean, that information is out there. I think we need a task force.
That's exactly the kind of information I'm trying to pull together. I mean, Sunday there was there's a group called the Gardeners Exchange, and they brought in this guy to, talk about invasives, but he was talking a lot deeper than just, what to do about invasives. He really was talking about, the whole relationship with nature and insects and products and yards and all this kind of stuff from from that perspective. So yeah, I'm very much interested in networking with people that want to focus on that. What do people do with the actual plot of land? I mean, stuff I've been reading is you can make a difference with what you do with containers on your porch. I mean, you don't even have to own land. If you've just got a porch, there's stuff that you can do, and it will sequester carbon.
And maybe if we had like a tip of the week, people could submit tips of the week, green tip of the week or bean recipe of the week.
I like it. It.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think right now we'll probably have some more time for discussion afterwards, but I'd like to move on to the Eco Challenge, because that was my whole reason for doing this. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint again. I can get that to work. And I want to move on. Okay, I think I probably shared it before I told it to actually present, so I'm going to stop and fix that. Actually did the opposite. I told it to share before I had present. Okay, let's try this now. Share again. And we will go from that slide. Here we go. So, as I said, Drawdown, Project Drawdown has joined up with an organization called ecochallenge.org to create a Drawdown Eco Challenge in which you can sign up to take individual actions around any of the solutions that they provide. I've selected certain ones today, and I would encourage you to choose some of the most effective ones, but you are free to choose any that you want. You go to drawdown.ecochallenge.org and you'll get an opportunity to join. And when you do that, they'll ask you for some information about yourself and so forth. But once you've done that, they'll ask you if you want to join individually or as a team. And at that point, join as a team and look for FCU Environmental Action Group, and you will find our team. And I don't know why it makes our picture so dark, but it just does. And I couldn't get it to not do that. But anyway, we are in there. Our picture is in there. First Unitarian Church, First Church Unitarian is in there as a team. So please join. And I will, as I said, I'm going to share my slides. And so you'll have all this information. I put more words on my slides than I usually do for that very reason. So you'll have some of the information on them. And what I want to do is give you some tips about it and then show you a little video that tells you a little bit more about what you can do to choose actions and to record them and report them once you're part of the team. So as I said, when you join, select join a team and look for our team. And our particular Eco Challenge will be active through June 15th. I thought that was enough time to allow people to really establish new habits and to kind of, if you need to get moving slowly, you'll have time to do that. And then we can celebrate near the end of the church year, the progress we've made. So once you've signed up, you can choose up to 5 one-time actions and 20 daily actions. And those are the only 2 choices. But if you want to commit to an action less than daily, you should still sign up for the daily action. And then you can just report it as completed once a week or twice a week or whatever you decide you want to commit to. If you don't see an action that you'd like to work on, and some of the things I've suggested tonight, you won't see. But if you don't see them, you can create a custom action of whatever you want. And you do that by when you're in a particular area like transportation or food or health and education, you scroll down to the very bottom of the page of the screen and you will find a custom action and you can do that. And you can log in daily if you want and record your actions. You can also do it retroactively for up to 4 days. So if it's Thursday and you want to record and report something that you did on Monday, you can do that, but you can't go back further than that. You get points for completing actions. You get some for one-time actions and up to 2 daily actions. But the whole point thing is, it's nice to get points, but all of your daily actions are actually recorded, whether you've gotten points for them or not. When you start to select actions, you can also check off things that you already do, and you'll automatically get 22 points for those. You won't then be asked to record those daily because it's something you're already doing. And the whole challenge, the point of it is about taking new actions and learning new habits. And you can also look at our team's progress and the overall Eco Challenge progress anytime you want. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm going to just show you a little video that will give you a little more information about it. And I want to say, when you go to sign on, if you're having any trouble, if you're having any questions, just contact me and I'll help you with it. if need be. So let's take a look at this video. It's about 3 minutes long. And there it is.
Welcome to Eco Challenge. Now that you've successfully joined an event, created or joined a team, and invited your friends, it's time to get ready for your challenge. In this video, we're going to cover some basics, like interacting with your dashboard, editing your profile, selecting and marking actions complete, and interacting on the social feed. Every time that you log into Eco Challenge, you'll start on your dashboard, your central hub during the event. The dashboard is where you'll find important links to edit actions and profile settings, manage your team if you're a captain, view your action resources, and check in to mark your actions complete during the event. You can return to your dashboard anytime by clicking the dashboard link at the top of the page. To edit your profile, click the Edit Profile button on your dashboard. You can add a mission statement, a profile picture, and even a banner image to add some personality to your page. Click Update Profile and then View My Profile to see your changes. To edit your actions, starting from your dashboard, click Edit My Actions. Then, on the My Challenges page, click a challenge theme to begin exploring. Notice that on each action card there are indicators to distinguish daily and one-time actions, learn more buttons that provide links and other action resources, and a 3-bar difficulty meter to help you plan your challenge realistically. Also, you can earn points clicking I already do this to indicate that you already perform or have completed an action. On each challenge page, you'll notice an action filter. Activate the filter to sort and view actions by difficulty level and frequency, or to view only actions that are customizable or that provide action resource links, such as videos or articles to help you learn more about a specific action. Select an action by clicking the Select button and entering any customizations. Now, when you return to your dashboard, you'll see the actions you selected. Note that the interactive buttons on each action are only visible during the event, so depending on when you're selecting your actions, these buttons may or may not be visible yet. Great, you've selected your actions and it's time to get out and start creating impact. Now that I've shopped my farmer's market, prepared a meatless meal, and done some bike commuting, it's time to check into Eco Challenge and report my progress. To complete an action, log into your dashboard and click the button on each action you completed. As you complete actions, you'll see your own impact add up on your dashboard and on your profile. To view impacts for the entire event, click on the impact link on top of any page. On the impact page, you can filter to show impacts from everyone, your team, or just yourself. Now that I've marked my actions complete, it's time to check out the social feed. To access the feed, click Feed at the top of any page. The feed is a great place to find inspiration and interact with others during the event. It's where you can share thoughts or photos, reply to posts, and high-five your teammates. Like the impact page, there's a filter so you can view updates from everyone, just your team, or people who've chosen similar actions. Or you can just view your own posts. Have a great Eco Challenge. For event information and other news, be sure to follow Eco Challenge on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay, so I really encourage everyone to sign up for our Eco Challenge. And I think I'm going to, first I want to reiterate that what I talked about tonight is only a small selection of the individual actions you can choose to take. And you will find many more on Eco Challenge, on the Eco Challenge website. And I just want to end by saying that, that we need to enact hope, to invite it to stay, as Reverend Marta said in a sermon last week. And I believe, along with Congressman Ayanna Pressley and with many others, that hope is a practice. It's not something that happens to us. It's something we have to engage in. And I believe that one way to do that is to take action. And that's all I have. So I'll turn it back over to Linda.
Lynn, before you leave, could you walk us through how to sign up for Project Drawdown? I went on the website. I only see a way to sign up individually. Could you help us here?
I guess if someone else could share their screen and try to do it, because I've already signed up, it's not going to let me go back and go through the process.
Hey, Tom, can you help us?
Maybe.
Well, who would like to sign up? We can just take whoever it is and
I'm trying.
I can
jumped the
try.
I
Yeah.
jumped the gun so fast that I already signed up.
Oh.
So
And look what you did to the church too. Look what you did to the lawn on the church.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if somebody who wants to, if you can allow whoever wants to be the guinea pig and sign up right now to share their screen.
Okay. Let me see if I can get into it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
53%.
So it's drawdown.ecochallenge.org.
Okay, it helps if I spell right.
Yeah. Actually, I can put that in the chat for you.
And I'm wondering about, putting a blurb out either in on listserv and possibly to Community Matters for people who didn't get a chance to do this.
Yeah, I do plan to do that.
Oh, that would be great.
And I will issue that invitation along with sharing the recording and sharing my slides.
That would be great. Okay, I got it.
Here's how you get in.
Join. Okay.
Sorry, I thought it started at 7.
Oh yeah, we're just finishing up. But as I said, I did record it, so you can see it later. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
It's recorded, so we'll hopefully be able to get that out.
Okay.
I was just going to say I'm trying to log in now, and I logged in with Google, and then before you hit the join button on the right hand side, there's a list of teams on the left hand side, and I can share my screen if
Okay, so I have to log in as an individual.
Yeah, you have to basically create an account, if you will.
create an account.
You have to create an account. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right. No problem. All right, now I get it. Okay.
So are you in, Linda?
I am just starting it.
Okay, can you share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't.
Share screen. Do here. Okay. So there, and then, so, my name, all of that, and then you have to agree. Okay. And you have to say you're not a robot. And then you have to find the tractors.
Or whatever they show you when you do it.
Yeah, I have tractors here. So I am not a robot, and that verifies that I am not a robot. So now if I hit join now, is that going to, do I have a choice? Who said view login option?
You log in.
No, I think you have.
I got past this screen, and then on the next screen, I think after you log in. Oh wait.
Yeah, just go ahead and join now.
Yeah.
Join now.
Yeah.
But I made an error.
Oh, okay.
What did I do? Must have spelled something wrong.
Your email doesn't.
Oh
match.
yeah,
Okay.
Gmail spelled wrong. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, I have to
You
tell
have
him
to prove you're not a robot.
I'm
again.
not a robot again. Oh, now I got to do my password. Oh, this is so frustrating. Okay. Okay.
Now,
Okay.
now there's a list of teams on the left hand
Teams.
side.
Yeah,
Okay.
list of
List of
teams.
teams. There we go.
Uh,
And
I just filtered by Massachusetts, and it's
okay.
pretty short list once you do that, a shorter list.
Yeah,
Here we go.
there we
Yeah.
are.
We-
Yeah.
Okay, and then join this team.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you finished up the demographics, you'll get to a different screen, which just actually shows they create or join a team, and it's a very simple screen. There's a create your own team button at the bottom, and then below that one, there's a join an existing team, which then if you select that one, you should be getting a list of teams you can join.
Yeah, which Linda already found, but I think there are probably multiple ways into it.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning that because that's the way I went.
Yeah.
Mm. All right. Okay. I think you probably don't need to keep watching that. So was that helpful for people?
I hope so.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I think this is very exciting. I love the team effort too.
Yeah, this is
You know,
great,
and-
Lynn. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And then you can go in, at any time and choose actions and start doing them and recording them.
This is a wonderful presentation, Lynn. Thank you for
thank
putting
you.
this together.
Thank you for being here.
Right. And if people didn't get a chance to look at the chat, there were a lot of great comments in the chat and great resources in the chat.
This one's inspirational for me. Thank you, Lynn.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
good presentation, Lynn.
Thank you. So I just saved the chat. I'll make that available to folks as well.
Perfect. Excellent. That is super. And I did mention at the beginning, but some people probably missed it, that the Elders Climate Action has a presentation that sounds like it's going to dovetail with this. And it is called Why We Need Lifestyle Changes to Fight Climate Change. So that is going to be on Monday, March 28th from 4 to 5:30. And it should be in our Community Matters. But if anybody wants Zoom links or anything like that, just, let me know and we can make sure you get it. So I think that does sound like it will be interesting too.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Tom. And I'm gonna, I will actually include that link in the listserv that I send out as well.
Great. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. And everybody, is there anybody who has anything to say that we missed?
Just with your permission, once I get the recording from Zoom, I will upload it to YouTube. Is that okay?
Sure.
And yeah, share it. I can share it from there for our church folks and all that.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Great. I'll stop recording. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming.
All right.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.